everyone is going to be looking at Caitlyn Clark and seeing um, what she's doing, keeping an eye out at our fans. And obviously, in the Taylor Swift documentary, Caitlyn, they made sure, and this is one of those things where it's like, you just kind of know if they're being smart about things. So in the Taylor Swift documentary, she's playing in Indianapolis, and obviously, am I right in saying this was was it one of the ones where it was like one day she was there in like the crowd, and the next day she was there was such a big deal made about it. She was in the VIP section with Travis Kelce.
Caitlyn Clark appeared for just 1 second in Taylor Swift's documentary, and the internet instantly lost control. Critics are unraveling. Fans are desperately freezing frames hunting proof. The minds behind that documentary, though, knew exactly what they were unleashing the moment they slipped her in. That split-second cameo exposes something far bigger about Caitlyn's star power that no one is admitting yet.
And I've seen this a good few times. I've seen this picture a good few times being like, oh, I think I saw Caitlyn. They made sure they were smart about it. They made sure they could put a split second of her in it so that her fans...
That's exactly what's happening with Caitlyn Clark right now. She's reached the level where simply being somewhere creates content, where just existing in a space sparks conversation, debate, and emotion. Love it or hate it, that's a kind of fame very few athletes ever touch. Here's the part people don't fully grasp yet. Caitlyn Clark actually spends more time in the off-season than she does playing basketball. The WNBA season lasts 4 months. The off-season lasts 8. That means for 2/3 of the year, Caitlyn isn't on the court for the Indiana Fever. She's living her life, showing up to events, going to concerts, spending time with friends. And during all of that, fans are constantly searching for any Caitlyn Clark moment they can find. That's exactly what's happening with Caitlyn Clark right now. She's reached the level where simply being somewhere creates content, where just existing in a space sparks conversation, debate, and emotion. Love it or hate it, that's a kind of fame very few athletes ever touch. Here's the part people don't fully grasp yet. Caitlyn Clark actually spends more time in the off-season than she does playing basketball. The WNBA season lasts 4 months. The off-season lasts 8. That means for 2/3 of the year, Caitlyn isn't on the court for the Indiana Fever. She's living her life, showing up to events, going to concerts, spending time with friends. And during all of that, fans are constantly searching for any Caitlyn Clark moment they can find.
Very few athletes ever achieve.
That's exactly why fans lose their minds over a 1-second documentary cameo. That's why people spiral when she pops up at an NFL game or posts a casual photo with friends. The space between basketball seasons is so long that fans are starving for anything connected to her. And the tension just keeps building. Content creators, documentary filmmakers, podcasters, they all see it, and they're leaning into it hard. And honestly, it doesn't even feel sinister, it feels calculated, aware, and smart. When Sue Bird says Caitlyn Clark's name on a podcast, that episode suddenly explodes compared to the ones without her. When Sophie Cunningham mentions her, engagement instantly spikes. When the PGA casually referenced her during a tournament broadcast, people locked in. Everyone is starting to understand the same thing at the same time. Caitlyn Clark's name moves attention, sparks emotion, and carries real weight, and more people are quietly using that power to their advantage.
Just below us here in Kansas City, Taylor Swift and Caitlyn Clark, guard for the Indiana Fever.
There are real highs and real costs that come with this level of fame. The upside is obvious: huge endorsement deals, a massive platform, real influence over the future of women's basketball, and long-term financial security. But the downside is impossible to ignore. The stalker incidents are genuinely scary. The nonstop scrutiny, the reality of never being able to move through public spaces without cameras or eyes on you, that's the hidden toll, and it isn't glamorous. That's the price of this kind of celebrity, and it can be ugly. But circle back to that Taylor Swift documentary moment, because it perfectly shows where Caitlyn stands culturally right now. She's no longer just a basketball player. She's crossed into full mainstream celebrity. She's recognizable to casual sports fans, and even to people who don't watch basketball at all. That kind of reach is incredibly rare for a women's athlete in any sport. And this is where it gets even more interesting. We just watched this same phenomenon play out again on social media. Liz Kitley, the former Virginia Tech star who was drafted by the Las Vegas Aces, recently posted a simple photo dump. Nothing flashy, just normal pictures with friends, including Monica Saxony, who happens to be one of Caitlyn's close friends. And then, at the very end of the post, there it was, a sudden, unexpected photo of Caitlyn Clark standing with Liz and Monica, and just like that, everything changed. Suddenly that post is everywhere. People are sharing it, commenting on it, breaking it down frame by frame. Oh my God, Caitlyn Clark is hanging out with Liz Kitley. And sure, they're friends, they probably see each other more than people realize. But the moment Caitlyn appears in the photo, it stops being casual and turns into a moment. That's the level this has reached. And let's not forget, everyone spent last season talking about Liz Kitley like she was going to save the Aces. People were convinced she'd be a dominant force, saying she would have gone number 2 in the draft if she hadn't gotten injured. I remember hearing all of that and thinking, when did Liz Kitley suddenly become the best player in the world? She averaged 1.3 points per game last season. She didn't even step on the floor for the Aces. But because she's connected to Caitlyn's circle, people pay attention anyway. That's the ripple effect of Caitlyn Clark's fame. And let's be honest about what's really happening here. There's a level of intrigue around Caitlyn that goes far beyond basketball. A huge reason for that is how little actual basketball WNBA players play compared to the length of the year. I'm not counting unrivaled as real basketball, that's gimmick ball. Something that looks like basketball but isn't the same. Project P hasn't even started yet. So outside of a 4-month WNBA season, there's a massive stretch of downtime. And for fans to stay locked in during those 8 months, it can't just be about games. It has to be storylines. It has to be personality. It has to be off-court moments that keep people invested. And Caitlyn Clark delivers all of that without trying, simply by being present. Think about it this way, and it starts to make unsettling sense. In men's sports, basketball never really stops. There's the NBA, college hoops, international play, summer league, training camps. Something is always happening. In women's basketball, you get the WNBA season, and then for most players, silence. Sure, some go overseas, but most fans aren't tuning into those leagues, so what are people supposed to follow during those 8 long months? They follow who their favorite players are spending time with, what concerts they're attending, what they're posting online, who they're dating, what documentary they flash across for 1 second. All of it becomes content because there's no basketball filling the gap. And honestly, women's college basketball might actually have more star power right now than the men's game, not necessarily in raw viewership, but in names people genuinely care about. Outside of Cooper Flagg and maybe 1 or 2 others, how many men's college players would casual fans stop and watch for? It's hard to name many. On the women's side, you've got Sarah Strong at UConn, arguably the best player in the country with 2 more years left. You've got players like Malaysia Fegan at South Carolina, who dropped 20 a game as a freshman and still has 3 years ahead of her. These athletes aren't one and done. They stay. They grow. They build fan bases and multi-year storylines people actually invest in. That's a massive advantage women's college basketball has, and it rarely gets talked about. When a star emerges, fans get to watch the full journey over 3 or 4 years, not just a quick flash before they disappear. But bring it back to Caitlyn and that documentary moment, because that's where this really gets revealing. What we're seeing is Caitlyn transcending basketball entirely. She's crossed into a space very few athletes ever reach, where people follow her for more than just what she does on the court. They're drawn to her as a person, as a cell. Even if there's only a 1% chance someone could be a threat, you have to act like it's 100% and take every precaution. That's the harsh reality of this level of fame. But if you look at it purely from a business and cultural perspective, what Caitlyn has done is extraordinary. She's turned women's basketball into must-watch TV for millions who never followed the sport before. She's drawn mainstream attention and sponsorship dollars straight to the WNBA. She's lifted her teammates and even competitors simply by stepping on the court against them. And now, she's reached a point where a single 1-second cameo in a Taylor Swift documentary turns into a news story. That isn't just athlete fame, that's superstar celebrity status. Whether you love her or are starting to feel fatigued by the coverage, You can't deny that her cultural impact is unprecedented for a women's basketball player. That Taylor Swift cameo is just the latest illustration of her unique reach. Caitlyn doesn't need to do anything over the top. She simply exists in a space, and instantly it becomes content. It sparks conversation. It drives attention. That's the power she wields now. And that becomes clicks, views, engagement, pure attention in action. Here's the kicker. This is probably only the beginning. As Caitlyn's career progresses, as she racks up wins, and hopefully leads the Fever to championships, this level of focus is only going to explode. The off-court moments will grow even more valuable. Random documentary appearances will generate even bigger buzz. For better or worse, Caitlyn Clark has entered a space that very few athletes ever reach. She's a mainstream celebrity who just happens to play basketball, rather than a basketball player who's somewhat famous. Documentary makers, podcasters, leagues, and brands are all realizing how to leverage that power. So, when you see Caitlyn flash for 1 second in a Taylor Swift documentary and the internet goes wild, understand exactly what you're witnessing. You're seeing live proof of how strong her brand has become and how hungry fans are for any content during the long WNBA offseason. The documentary team knew exactly what they were doing, and honestly, credit where it's due, that's smart business. That's the real story behind Caitlyn Clark's cameo and the level of fame it represents. If this gave you a fresh perspective, hit like, subscribe, and drop your thoughts in the comments. We're covering every major story shaking up women's basketball.